My name is Karen Betten, and I am thrilled to be your host. I host every third Wednesday of the month for Colette's amazing show, Truth is Funny. So, yeah, it's me today. Yay! My intention is to provide information, experiences, stories, science that ignite the limitless truth of your nature in all sorts of different facets. My hope is to sort of stoke the fires of those aspects of yourself that may be lying a little bit dormant, that are desiring to sort of emerge and come through and experience. And hopefully, by just mirroring the connection that we make here through this beautiful community, that we can all share within each other our potential to create change, to transform, to experience more joy, more abundance, even in the shadow, right? Even in the darkness. Podcasts are available for every single show on the transformationfm.com, truthisfunny.com, karenbetten.com. So you can catch this on the back end if you can't stay for the whole show, or at any point. I am so thrilled with, as I usually am every month, of course, but I don't know, this month I actually feel a little discombobulated this morning because I was so excited to speak with my guest today, who is Kristin Pierce. She's one of those people who, when you read their bio, you're like, that would take the whole show. And then you spend moments trying to edit it down. You're like, no, I can't leave that out. No, I can't leave that out either. Oh, I got to put that one in there too. And then you're like, you know what? I'm going to hand it to the guest and let the guest figure out how to describe themselves. But I'm going to give a little bit of what I think sort of covers it all. Kristin and I share a love of the Body Talk system. She is an instructor of Mindscape and an instructor of Body Talk Access, which I also am an instructor of. So we share that common interest, thrill, and love and framework of looking through life. But she has gone on to take it in absolutely amazing ways. She's an author. She has a memoir coming out, and she is one of the most inspiring authors of children's books that we are going to dedicate a whole nother show to, because I really had no idea until I took the time to read it. Because today we are really looking at her very interesting background. She was faced with a cancer diagnosis in her 20s, and you could say that changed the direction of her life. That might be a big leap for me to go there with my nursing background, but I'm just going to assume, I'm going to even say the people in my lives, cancer diagnoses, have changed the course of my life. So having one yourself is going to, of course, change your life. And I think she summarizes a lot of that in her book called The Cosmic Hammer. You get the rest of the title, right? When life wakes you up to shake you up. So Kristin, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here with you.
These are those people that you meet and you're like, I wish I was your age and I could like have those 10 years all over again. Although I have no idea how old you are, but I'm just assuming you're at least 10 years younger than me. So those people inspire me. And then I want to dig in and be like, tell me what it is that puts that light in your eyes. So I'm just going to say that, I told you I'm spontaneous. So that first question is, because here we are live. And so we get to look at each other's eyes. And if someone were to ask you, what is behind that light that is emanating out your eyes, despite all that you've been through in your life, what would you say?
I would probably say honestly, like the gift of being alive and passion. I feel like having a cancer diagnosis really did shake everything up that I thought I knew when I was 21, so that I could open my mind and learn things in such a different perspective, especially in regards to health, but even just in regards to living. And that has been such an important piece of how my life has been redirected, because I am always, I feel like, following my inner compass. Like, that's what my business is called. That's what I feel like the whole purpose of everything is, right? Like finding what lights you up and following that and being true to yourself and sharing your gifts with the world, because they're so individual, right? Yeah. But they can help so many other people just by, being inspired to find their own.
I had that moment last night where I was thinking about you and, the light that you've inspired in me. And, those moments where we sort of hesitant to take the step forward, where we're like, I don't know. And then I had that moment of like, well, what if Kristin hadn't taken that step forward? I wouldn't be having this moment of inspiration. of having those unique fibers in my own body kind of light up just by, like, I've always been sort of drawn to you through our various ways that we've connected through Body Talk, which is primarily social media. I don't know.
Right.
Have
We did meet at the Body Talk conference.
Yes, I do remember. It feels like eons ago.
It does.
But, we've continued this connection. And then here I am spending time, because I knew I was interviewing you. And I felt like, wow, I'm like so thrilled that I took the time to get to know a little bit more about you. And that funny moment in my own life of like, how dare I not share my story and give that unique view the opportunity to light someone else up, because we don't know, right? Like, and
totally.
In my life, I've met many people who have experienced cancer and thrived and survived, but yours is unique to you, and because of my background, I know so many, but like each story is so unique that it requires that precious sort of stoking to open everyone else to what's offered in there.
Absolutely.
So with that, I'm going to transfer into this idea, right? We talked about what would our theme be, which is so hard. Like, what is our theme? But we came up with this questioning beliefs and fears as a tool for transformation. And I believe you just had the launch of a book, and which book was it that was launched? I don't know, 12 hours ago?
Yesterday. Yeah. Yesterday, I launched my 5th children's book called Hazel Mist Hypnotist. And so it's very aligned with what you just asked, because it is actually about a girl who has stage fright, but she becomes very interested in hypnotism. Her parents don't know anything about it, so she has to go learn on her own. So she heads to the library and like reads every book she can find and practices and does whatever she needs to kind of integrate that information. And then she starts practicing, because that's just what you have to do when you're learning something, right? And as she continues through that journey, she realizes, okay, I'm going to have to, do a performance for people, or, do a show. And she gets really scared. So she has to figure out how to kind of talk herself through the steps, like first of all, how to calm herself enough that she can even do that. And then she talks herself through like step by step. And as she continues doing these shows and like stretching her own comfort zone, she starts to see all of these things that are happening with her participants when they are hypnotized or under hypnosis, that they don't have the same blocks they normally have. Right? So the things that might normally stop them when they're aware and, awake, though they don't have those limits when they're under hypnosis. So she starts to go, okay, so why is that? So she does some more investigating. And at the end, the final show in the book is about pulling back the curtain to show everybody the blocks that they have that stop them from achieving their big dreams. And then questioning if, okay, so if you didn't have that limit while you were under hypnosis, is that limit actually true?
Ooh.
And so, yeah, it's pretty cool. But I try to convey all of these messages in a way that kids are going to have fun with, and they're going to understand. And then we have reflection questions at the back of the book as well. So they're not just reading about this person, but they can start to think about how does this apply to me, or what experiences have I had that are similar to this, or what blocks have I heard in my own mind? And yeah, so that was the book release yesterday.
There it is.
Yeah.
I'm so loving these books. I would imagine you need your own little stand in bookstores, because I can't imagine there's actually a category that exists for
it is a little bit hard to put them in categories.
Transformation, which is the funny thing, right? Like those aspects of ourself that are sort of limitless, which might be what we're tapping into in hypnosis.
Right.
And then trying to even describe them, like I always joke that one of the words that trips me up, the questions that trips me up the most is, what do you do?
How do I describe this, right?
How much time do you have? You probably put your wine glass down. I don't know. Are you ready for this?
Oh, that's good.
Well, so speaking of blocks and limits, what would you say are the blocks and limits that you had to face prior to, well, let's go back to the cancer diagnosis. If you were to go back to that moment, and I wouldn't, it'd be crazy to say there's one, right? But what's the
Right.
one that you feel drawn to address, to speak about, to highlight in this moment, in that experience, right? You were 21, right? I would think.
Yeah.
And you're an athlete.
I was 21. I was an elite athlete. I was on a volleyball scholarship in actually Erie, Pennsylvania at Mercyhurst College. And it was between my third and fourth years of school. And I was in sports medicine. I was learning about the body. I had practices all the time and games. Like, my schedule was busy, but I was almost obsessed with health in a way. Like, we also had workouts every day and practices in it. So I was in like really, really good shape, and I paid close attention to my diet and all of those things. Yet I find myself with a cancer diagnosis when I'm 21. So of course that had to smash everything to bits, right? Like, everything that I thought I knew came into question, which was, I think, the most powerful part, right? And maybe not right away, but my whole experience was about 3 months start to finish, which was quite lucky, I think, in the grand scheme of things. But yeah, it really did allow me to question everything I thought I knew about health, because I was doing everything right, and somehow landed with a cancer diagnosis. Didn't have any family history, didn't have any things that Western medicine would normally look to blame, which I think was exactly how it needed to go. Because I do have a strong mind, and I wasn't going to stop until there was some kind of understanding, right? Like, how does this happen? It doesn't come out of nowhere, right? There's got to be a reason for this.
Figure out why, right? Like, particularly as a nurse, I think I might have been right. I was in Phoenixville, Pennsylvania, doing my rotation around that time.
Okay.
We were close to each other, but you do. You spend a lot of time in medicine and diagnosis figuring out why. And there's an element of safety and security that comes with that. And yours was a big old blank slate.
Big old question mark.
It was a big old slippery pole with KY jelly on it, right? Like, you just couldn't even no, I can't climb up.
Oh my gosh.
Those moments in life where you have nothing to hold on to.
Absolutely. And then it just kind of kept going from there, because I had abdominal surgery. My tumor was 5 pounds and the size of a football. So they were planning on doing like a cesarean type to get it out. But it was too big, and they had to check a lymph node that it had also spread to the aorta of my heart. So my incision ended up being about 12 inches from my pubic bone up around my belly button. So like, my stomach was obliterated for however long as I was healing, and so just all the things I thought about myself, like strong athlete, my muscles disappeared.
Like, those volleyball players have abs of steel, right? Like,
right.
Yeah.
And all of my muscle disappeared because I was in a hospital for 2 weeks. Like, bedridden, and then even after that, then I had to do chemo, and I wasn't supposed to lose my hair, but I did. And so even just like all the things of like beauty and all the things you think you are, your identity, everything seemed to get stripped away, which was a really hard thing to have to go through, but it was a really great opportunity as well. Yeah. And I think that's what really allowed me to find out who I was. I get to play with my hair as it was growing back out. Like, okay, let's try different things that I never would have actually let myself try before, because I was, too attached to who I thought I had to be, whether that was for me or for other people. Instead of everyone I feel like is a people pleaser to some degree, especially when you're a kid, right? That's just how you learn to survive. That's how
you get by, right? When mom and dad are happy, like, you might get that candy and that ice cream and that trip to the park, when they're not
exactly.
Not getting anything you want. I mean, that's how it was in my house. I shouldn't try
Yeah.
to protect myself.
No, I'd say that's fairly blanket across,
It's
across
kind of
the
how it is in
board.
my house right now too. So with my own kids, so I carry on the tradition even though I try
Uh,
not to, right? Like those moments where you're like, I'm gonna do it differently, and then you rise above yourself, going, "Here I am! My God, I just sounded like my mother."
Hey, you got to catch it, right? That's the first step.
Who was that speaking? When did my mom get here? Somebody stop me.
Oh, that's so good. So yeah, just like so many things were stretched. Like honestly, I felt like I was just in shambles after all of that, but it allowed me to find some answers. And actually the first day I got in the hospital, in my hometown hospital in Saskatchewan, I actually had a nurse recommend Body Talk, like within 10 minutes of us showing up. Yeah.
That's
And so
Canada. That's
I
Canada.
know.
The United States are like, I've never heard of that. One doctor told me it was a quackery.
What? Oh my gosh.
Which is what happens with something new,
Yeah.
right? Where we kind of like, and it is. And so
When they don't understand it, right?
yeah. And, in the beginning that would make me angry. And then now I just laugh and say, oh, I know, right? It's so funny to think that, whatever, that your body actually talks to you.
Yeah, what? All the time.
That's just pain. I need to get rid of that. That's not my body
Mm.
talking to me, which, and both, I'm not saying one is true and the other is false, but can we also make room for it being that, your cancer diagnosis was your body talking to you. And I
missed all the whispers along the way. So it had to turn into a huge, gigantic thing that there were no other answers or reasoning for. Because I was such a logical, medically minded person that if they would have said, oh, this was because of this, I would have been like, okay.
Yeah.
Right. Would have stopped there. But there was no explanation. So I was like, okay. Right. But then also being introduced to Body Talk was amazing. I had sessions all throughout, the practitioner came and saw me in the hospital, and yeah, we were really lucky. Seriously, Saskatchewan we don't have a big population, and there's just so many connections here in Canada. So that was awesome. And even my parents who were also very left-brained, they had a session the same day I had my first session. And I think, that just blew my mind.
All right. Well, believe it or not, it is actually time for take a break, because we get everybody a little excited for when we come back from the break. We're going to go into, how did you get your parents to take one? Although I guess if the nurse is telling you, that's such an amazing thing. And then I want to hear about those whisperings, the whisperings that you weren't hearing.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps Maisie, is that her name? Got to hear in her own, hypnotized state, like those, is her name Maisie? Is that their book? Yeah.
Oh, Hazel,
sorry.
Yeah, no,
yes,
that's okay.
In that moment. But yeah, like that, and how beautiful to create a character around that, to offer kids this opportunity to witness and engage these aspects of ourselves that we don't talk about. Oh, such a gift. All right. Time goes so fast. We're right here with Kristin Pierce, and we're going to be right back on The Truth is Funny on Transformation Talk Radio. All right. So we are back on Truth is Funny. I'm Karen Betten, and I'm here with Kristin Pierce. I am a regular host for Colette every third Wednesday of the month. So before we continue, Kristin, just in case we need to get someone, can you share your contact information? You have like a bunch of websites and a bunch of emails, which is, again, so inspiring. So share. Tell us, how can we get in contact with you if we want?
Yep, my website is innercompassacademy.com and also innercompassbooks.com. And probably the best email is info@innercompassbooks.com. Get a hold of me.
So I want to throw in there, Kristin works with people one-on-one. She teaches classes, which, there's so many things that we could talk to her about, but she teaches Mindscape classes. She teaches Body Talk Access. She works with children. She works with adults. She works with families. If this in any way inspires you, I highly recommend, spend some quality one-on-one time with someone that inspires you, because it is worth its weight in gold. It will ignite aspects of yourself that have been there all along and that you're carrying around. You just might not be aware of them, right? Things haven't gotten quiet enough. So thank you so much. Welcome back. Listeners, feel free to call in if you have any questions, any shares, any comments, anything. 1-800-930-2819. So back to, I'm really intrigued about the whisperings that you weren't hearing. What were those whisperings that?
Well, I wasn't hearing them was the problem, right? Like
I'm so great.
You know, right? Like I missed them all.
No, but you didn't hear them now? Did you even the whole point?
No, when I was going back through and actually writing my memoir, there was definitely things that came to the surface. A lot of them were, first of all, trusting the doctors more than the own whispers from my body. So I did go to the doctor quite a few times because I had constipation and it wasn't normal for me. And that was honestly pretty much my only symptom, like bloating and constipation before, the ovarian cancer diagnosis. But I think I had at least 3 or 4 doctors say, you're just constipated, eat more fiber. Right. And so I was just like, okay, yeah, I'll do that. Even though I was like, I eat lots of fiber, but okay. So eventually and so some of that was in the States, just at the kind of the campus clinic. But then even when I got back to Canada, my family doctor told me that the first time. Yeah. And so my mom was like, we're going to get Metamucil and we're going to do an experiment. So when we got home from the one doctor's appointment, she mixed up 2 glasses of Metamucil and we drank them. Like she drank one and I drank one. And it did nothing for me, and she could not get out of the bathroom. So it was like, okay, something's wrong. Like
doesn't belong.
Exactly. Right. It's like nobody's trusting that I'm saying this isn't normal for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a big one. Just, and not that doctors are wrong. They just, right. It was just, I needed to give my own whispers from my body a little bit more weight and value.
Possibly, right? Because I mean, at the same time, you talk to tons of people who are overdiagnosed, right, and go through these, where they're, so it is a unique experience to you, right? And
I also think I wasn't listening to anything leading up to that, though. It was like constantly just whenever my body was talking, it was like, ignore it, disregard it. It's nothing. Kind of just keep. Because I did a lot of pushing, right? That's, like push through practice, push to go to the gym, push through juggling all these things at once, even if I was overwhelmed. So.
Right. Yeah. What do you say? And I remember when I was in nursing school, we say horses before zebras, because when you were learning about all different diagnoses and things, you suddenly felt that you had every single diagnosis that was out there and be like, oh, horses, so there's a lot more horses than there are zebras, right? So the horses before so it's like that general approach is constipation. It's just constipation. It's right. Nothing else. And which is the important part of listening to your own inner sense, and recognizing that you actually know you far above anyone else. And I think that's like almost dangerous to say. And now in our current framework that most of us
right
operate.
now.
Yeah. That most of us, what, right now? You want to talk about right now? Are you crazy?
I am.
I don't know if you have approval for that.
Oh man.
No, right.
So I was going to share though that the one other, like the biggest thing that I probably took from this, like from the whole experience of the whispers, is emotionally, I was really shut down. Like I kept everything inside. I didn't let anybody see how I was feeling. And a lot of it, like in volleyball training, we learned about mental toughness and all those kinds of things. But I really kept everything inside and it just constantly piled up. And I think, that's one of the biggest things that shifted in me, is becoming aware of, that I have emotions and that it's okay to have emotions and it's okay to let them out.
How do emotions show up for you? Like, how do you, in your current life experience, because I'm sure you still have a bit of that go, go, go. I'm just guessing based on all of the things that you do currently. There's a go, go, go nature that has gifted all of us with all of these books and the memoirs and the teaching and all of that. But right now, what is your sort of, what arises for you when you sense that there's something that is, well, I don't know how to fill that question, that there's an emotion that wants to be felt, that there's an aspect of yourself that you want to sit with?
Well, in some of your things that you mentioned, we were going to talk about, fear was a big one. So especially because I feel I've been doing a lot of stretching this year. That has been a big one, right? Fear shows up, especially when I was writing my memoir. There was a lot of stuff that would kind of trigger me through that. And so just learning how to just let myself feel however I was feeling, not have to push through it, not have to fix it, not have to change it, but just like let myself feel it first, and lean into it. And after feeling it, then I can kind of go, okay, so what is this trying to tell me? What is this trying to
This
show
might
me?
be much, but what does fear feel like for you? Is that an okay question? Like, do you?
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. So it depends. It depends kind of what's going on, but sometimes it shows up just in my self-talk, right? I'll hear it in my head. Other times I'll feel it. I wouldn't say that I'm a really anxious person, but if I'm pushing myself way too far outside of my comfort zone, sometimes I do feel that in my chest.
Yeah.
Or it kind of like everything starts to feel tight, and that's fairly normal. Like fear creates that constriction. Mm-hmm. So sometimes that's how I feel it in my body. I do find it mostly shows up in my head though.
Like, what do they say, that monkeys in the head? Do you have monkeys in your head?
Yeah, like I'll hear it in my self-talk, or I'll start to think like, oh, why am I even doing this? Maybe I shouldn't bother. Right. So it starts to get flared and then tells you all the things that you shouldn't be doing.
Yeah. And you're a mom, right? Like, I mean, there's so much resonance out there. I mean, that's the one I hear a lot is, why am I even doing this? I should, I should be experiencing my kids while they're here. Cause now mine are transitioning out, right? I have a 20-year-old, I have an 18-year-old, I have a 13-year-old. So like my poor 13-year-old is finally getting all of my attention because the older ones are gone. And she's like, I want no part of that right now. I'm, creating my own life. Get the heck away from me. And I'm like, ooh, it's time to, so it's that inner talk that says we should be doing something other than we are in any given moment. And then even something that has so much of a charge, like caring for our children, or, and can we, what do you think? Can we care for our children and also, emanate our light out through the projects that we feel drawn to do?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think we can do that. I also think that it's helpful for our kids to see us doing that. Right? Like, we're setting that example. We're letting them see that that is possible. It's like, I can be a mom and I can be flexible and I can still do what I love, and you can watch me do that. Right. Wow. So it's really like, my kids are quite young still, 7 and 4. And so, it's nice because I'm doing what I want, I get to make my own schedule and I can be flexible in that, but I can also show them that I need boundaries and there's things that I need to prioritize for me because I really love what I do and I know that they can see that.
Yeah. Well, and you got amazing children's books just kind of hanging around for them to dive into, and you say, Mommy needs time, read this book.
Yeah,
they come back all happy and say, oh, Mommy, I will give you time, then no problem, right? Because it all just gets tied with a nice little, I mean, it is funny. I don't know if your mind is like mine, where it's like, well, this is how it should happen. As it hasn't, then you failed.
Yes, totally. Hey,
which is, the other piece with the diagnosis, right? There's even this framework that anything, including COVID, we mentioned the word, but that any of these things are wrong. And I have found in my own transition to bringing in new ideas that recreating that framework, that anything that's happening is actually an indication that something's wrong. And, you know, this idea of, if this wasn't wrong, which you kind of already said, you know, like, what if this wasn't wrong, if this was happening for me, what would I do right now?
Yeah. Yeah, no, and I like using those kinds of questions and looking at things from that perspective too. I feel like in writing my book, where I could look at it from, like why did this happen for me? Because it was such a huge gift, and it changed everything. I was going to go into physio. I was going to do, you know, all these things. And then I was like, I can't now, like, the cat's out of the bag. I can't shove it all back in. Right. I was starting to see.
And I'm sure there were nights you tried, right? Like, right? Like,
totally.
Put the cosmic hammer out to get it back in the bag, right? I mean, that's a natural part of the process. But
yeah.
I mean, metaphor, that's why you're a writer. So good, right? Like, we try to shove back in the bag what we don't want to know.
Right. Absolutely.
Which is perfectly fine too, right? And then when you find yourself doing that, what are the tools you use? You've spoken, right? You sit with it. You know, and then what are your other tools that you use?
Lots of Mindscape, lots of journaling, lots of writing. Sometimes I'll like write a poem about it. Actually, I was just looking through my blog because you'd mentioned like something about fear, and I was like, I wrote this poem called "Invite Your Fear for Tea."
Oh,
right.
What kind
and
of tea? Like, what kind of tea did the fear?
Right? It's like, just get to know, like, why is it here? Why is it showing up for you? What messages does it have? Like, it's, you know, and all very Mindscape type things, but anybody can do that. And so I use Mindscape all the time. And especially if I'm feeling like my ego's getting flared, it's like, okay, what's really going on underneath all of this? Right? Like,
you
this is just
you gotta
the
give
surface.
us the lowdown on what Mindscape is, because
okay.
right, like,
yes,
that's a little bit like the what do you do, but it's, go for it, right? Like,
yeah.
You've already, which is exciting, how you apply it in your life. Now, how would you describe what it is?
So Mindscape is a 2-day course where we build a mental framework. It is like meditation I usually say meditation on steroids. And so we build a mental framework in our mind, which keeps our left brain happy because it's all structured and organized. And then it allows us to connect with our intuition, or universal consciousness, or universal information, whatever you'd like to call it. But it also helps us connect with our subconscious mind, where we can bring up our limiting beliefs to the surface, our mental programs that we're running on, so that we can see what's actually happening beneath the surface. Right. And then
say, like, what do you mean? What's subconscious mind? What do you mean? There's a part of me that I don't know about?
Yes. And it's quite huge, actually. Supposedly, we are only conscious of about 1% of what's happening, of what we're functioning on, and the rest of our mental programs are all subconscious. So it's kind of like the hard drive of our computer, right? We can't really see what's all happening in there, but the whole point of Mindscape is kind of like diving in and bringing some of that up to the surface. So we can
yourself,
go, okay,
right? Like, no one's doing this for you. This is an experiential workshop that, like, you're leading people to explore themselves. I mean, to me,
it's very individual. Like, it's always whatever your own subconscious, you're bringing things up to the surface so that you can look at it, become aware of it, and then choose, okay, does this work for me, or is this not working for me? How do I want to proceed here? Right. But when we're aware of things, then we actually have a choice, right? If we're not paying attention, then we're just kind of running on autopilot. We can't really do much about that unless we want to investigate it. Yeah. So it's really fun. I love it. I honestly apply it to every area of my life. I use it for parenting with my kids. I actually write all of my kids' books in Mindscape. I plan all of the art direction in Mindscape. Whenever I'm feeling like I'm stretching my comfort zone, I go in.
Go there. Are there any medications involved in this Mindscape?
Absolutely
I'm
not.
just being what the general public might ask. I mean, you're kind of like, do you give them the pills, right? Like,
No.
right?
So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of those kinds of things that people are doing, right?
Yeah.
I can't.
And not knocking them at all, but I mean, the point
No,
being
and I
is
can't even remember what they should be classified as. Like, what's the term for that?
well, the one, I don't know, psychedelics, or no, there's another name
I
for that one,
guess.
right? Yeah, it's not,
Yeah, but
it's
like in the
basically
healing
journeying,
form,
herbs that help you
right?
journey, which I am not at all. I mean, I think that if that is your choice, I've never done it personally, but
Right.
I know a lot of people that have, and they've
Mm-hmm.
had amazing experiences with it. But we're talking about, you are teaching people techniques that, if that's what they know, you're teaching them to explore that aspect of themselves without any medication
Exactly.
or
Yes.
herbs or whatever you want to call it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is
It actually helps you get into like that relaxed state of mind where you can have that experience and not need anything external to get you into that state
which
of mind.
means if you're hiking or you're traveling or you're on an airplane and you forgot your herbs or your oils or your flower essences or your stones or your necklace or your guru, you have it with you all the time because there's no tools, right? Like you're
Absolutely.
like,
Yeah, it's actually really helpful because you can even use it for exercise. So like one thing I do when I'm flying quite a bit, I use it for writing while I'm on a plane. I also use it for like doing exercise while I'm, sitting in an airplane seat. And it's really powerful because like it's not just, I don't know, you can use it for personal development, but there's so many different other
yeah,
things, and
yeah.
and elite athletes use mental training all the time. Like it is proven that exercising in your mind changes your physiology.
Yeah, I mean, and the more skilled you get at it, like you literally stimulate the nerve receptors like almost 30%. Some studies have shown like 25 to 30%, and you're doing nothing physically. You're just using the
Right.
constructs of your mind, which is
So powerful.
so exciting, right? Like you can lie on a couch, or we do a thing with the kidneys, like how they actually move with every time you breathe, and you're lying on a couch. Eric Franklin, he's got this quote saying, you're lying on a couch, your kidneys have traversed at least a mile by the end of the day. Okay, awesome. Like if that's what changes you around at the end of the day, like if that's all you need, like my kidneys walked a mile today with just my
Yeah.
breathing while I was lying on the couch.
Oh wow, hey.
You know?
The
Uh,
body's pretty magical.
and then in your technique that you're talking about, like you will actually engage your kidneys. Yeah. Have you ever like engaged different parts of your organs to?
I don't know if I've specifically actually tried to do that, but maybe I'll have to now.
I don't know why not. Like I mean, I don't know. Like I now sort of engage different. Well, I'm medicine, right? That's my background. So it's
Yeah.
like what lungs. What do you have to say today? Which might be the beginning
Oh,
of
okay.
the session.
Yeah.
But I would say I'll probably learn the technique through the
Mm-hmm.
constructs of Mindscape. That you can interact in that interaction, right? I mean, it's sort of like, how do you talk to yourself? Which is what you were saying. Like one of the things was self-talk. That's one of the most cues for you that you said you use to know that you're in fear. How am I talking
Right.
to myself?
Mm-hmm. And a lot of times we don't even pay attention to that stuff, right? Like those tapes are running, and half the time people don't even know that those tapes are running. So yeah, when you can become aware of just what's happening in your head, how are you feeling in your body, and connecting with that, and then asking, okay, what is this trying to tell me? What is the
Yeah.
message here? Right? Yeah, it's such a powerful place to be in.
So I'm guessing yours was like, you need to be an author of children's books, and you need to write your memoir, and you need to teach, and you need to be a practitioner, and you need to
Oh my
mother,
gosh.
and you need to be a wife, and you need to fix your house. And you're
No,
like, I got it.
mine's a lot more limiting than that. And I have to unwind it all. And then I have to go, okay, let's just try it. Right. And that's probably why when I was describing Hazel, it's like, hey, you got to go learn some things, and then you just got to try it. Right. Because every time you're trying something, you're stretching your comfort zone. Right. Even if it's just a little bit. So like when I first wrote my first children's book, I was like, I don't know what to do with this. Like I never thought I was a writer. I didn't think I was creative because I was so left-brained. I was so like, I was in body work and sports medicine and athletics for so long.
And a
that
top
I was,
level, like volleyball player, right? Like that's,
yeah, but I was always good at science. So I didn't actually think that being good at, being logical and being artistic could coexist. Like that didn't make sense to my brain. So it took a lot of unraveling my old belief systems to get to the point where it was like, okay, yeah, maybe like I do have this idea. Maybe I'll sit down and write it. Like it took me a long time to even do that. I said the idea out loud and I didn't write it for like 5 months. Right. And then after I wrote it, I sat there with it for like another 3 months until I was teaching Mindscape, talking about how we get in our own way all the time. And one student was like, oh, well, I want to buy your book. And I was like, what? Like, what are you talking about? You don't even know I didn't even tell you what it's about. And she's like, I don't care. I want to buy it. I was like, well then, guess I'm going to have to figure out how to do this.
That's so amazing, because we think about teaching as this construct about us, imbuing new information to our students. And the reality is, it sounds like you're doing it exactly, which I tell all of my students, like, I teach this because I have to relearn it that often to get its full message. And each time you teach this information with a framework of curiosity, my body receives it more deeply, and I suddenly start to, which is sort of like when I was reading your books and getting ready for this, I was having all these aha moments of like, whoa, like when we face our greatest fears, which I would think humanity even right now is, right, fear of death.
Absolutely.
We're facing this idea that death is around the corner. And here you are sharing your experience of what happened to you, that trying to separate death from life is, well, limiting, one of those limiting beliefs, would you say?
Yeah, for sure. No, it was interesting, especially trying to write about that experience during the pandemic, because I wrote my first draft before, and then I let it sit for quite a while, and I was like, it wasn't
your
sitting
memoir, right?
Yeah, sorry, my memoir.
Has that been released yet?
Yeah, September 20th. So it's been out for a month.
Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm.
This has got to, I got to get this book in my office. I need to get my clients to read it. Like, because I didn't mean to interrupt, but I wanted to be clear. This was not your children's book. This was your memoir.
Yeah.
And so you were editing it during the pandemic.
I was editing and doing a lot of rewriting, because imagine trying to write about like a big experience like that. There was just a lot of emotional processing still, even though it happened 13 years ago. And then having all of these things happen with the pandemic, I was like, as if this story matters, right? Like there's all kinds of people dying. There's like Black Lives Matter movements right now. I'm like, this is like the last thing that anybody should care about, including myself. Like that's the kind of stuff I was hearing in my head. So
that is so important to share.
Yeah. So I ended up I'm like, I need to just write this out. Like I actually unwound a whole bunch of my fears in one of the chapters at the start. Cause it was like, I was getting in my own way so hard. I was not wanting to come back and edit my book. I would leave it for like a month at a time. Right. So there was lots of processing that needed to happen.
And I would say leave it in quotes, right? You're never leaving it behind. You were maybe just not in the active process of writing while you allowed all your other skills to sort of.
Let it all percolate and move through.
Sort of merge together and bring forth an even deeper sense of your truth. Wow.
Yeah. But going through all of those things in the process of editing, it was like, sometimes I did just have to be like, okay, I need to set this here and just, go
Let's
through.
make an omelet. I think I'm hungry. Right? Like so you can hear it in your voice. Like, and one of the things I find so inspiring these days is the sharing of our raw, authentic truth, and there you were faced with this, do I matter? Does my story matter? Am I enough? And I think we face that in COVID. Am I enough to survive COVID? Am I enough can I share my light when other people are experiencing the depths of fear? Right. And would you maybe say that there were people that shared their light, i.e. the nurse in Body Talk, with you when you were in the depths of fear that have been leading you to connect to yours. Like, I don't like this idea that it's not there, you know,
Right.
but like, so
Absolutely.
how
That
dare
just
we
gave me
not
goosebumps.
yeah, like how dare we not share our light, even in the face of other people being in fear,
Right.
which is, you know, I think what draws me to you. So like, I just want to hug you. Like, you can do it in here, you know, this like, I am, this is our way out, or one, this is one,
Right.
this is the way that works for me. Let me be very clear, you know, and it maybe doesn't get a lot of play, is your light, your willingness to explore that which might be holding back your own light, which
That
you
is such
share
a
with
big
us.
piece. Like, that's what I tell people, like, come to Mindscape for that, right? Like, there's so many things that we let block us just because we don't know about them. Right. And if we're not trying things or like stretching ourselves, even if it's just a bit, it's not like you have to like launch yourself out of your comfort zone. Right.
Yeah.
Like, even just
How about
stretching.
anger? Did you ever experience anger in there? Like, you know, like, I don't know, like,
Are you talking about memoir or pandemic?
memoir. You know, I mean, like that moment, like, because I think we think fear has certain qualities, and then anger as women. I kind of even lost what I was thinking, but like that moment where you might have been like angry, you know, because the memoir wanted to come through, but it was in conflict with these ideas that it wasn't enough. And then I don't know, in my life, I would like yell at my kids, or I don't know, whatever. Like, did you ever have like, and I'm not saying you to your kids, that's what I'm saying, but I mean, did you ever have like sort of this outburst of energy as these two conflicting aspects of you were coming in contact with each other, or even your cancer diagnosis, right? Any of it.
I don't think I felt angry so much when I was having that conflict with the pandemic and the editing. I think maybe I felt more of that in certain situations that led up to me writing the book. Like, one time I got invited to be a part of a cancer book where they share stories about people who've survived cancer. And I felt super uncomfortable about it because I know that my perspective sometimes sticks out like a sore thumb, which is probably why it needs to be shared more. But I was like, yeah, I don't really want to say yes to this. But then I was like, okay, I'm scared, but it's stretching me. Yes, I'm just going to do it. And we'll see why this invitation needed to show up in the first place.
Yeah.
And so then I was featured in this book, and I was the only one that was talking about my experience as it was a gift. I've learned so many things from it. Like, it changed my whole life and my whole perspective. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I allowed it to change me. I didn't just, you know, you can get bitter about those experiences, or you can go, okay, like, wow, I wouldn't be doing any of these things if that hadn't happened. Right. And so I was like, okay, that was a huge part of it, but it also made me really mad, like really mad that we're sharing all of these stories, or that people aren't looking at why cancer is happening for them. I'm like, why aren't you reassessing your life? You had cancer.
Yeah.
Right. Like,
what
why aren't
changes
you?
do you want to make? Yeah.
Right. But so that part got me fired up, and I really had to dig into, okay, why is this emotion coming to the surface for me, right? Anger is supposed to cause movement, you know?
Right. It serves us. I mean, I find the same with sharing my voice in social media. You know, this voice that's been quiet, more on the quiet side, more on the agreeable side. And now I'm kind of like, I have to share my truth, and I have to be willing, you know, it's the same thing, you know, my voice and my truth, the part that lights me up. And then the more I light up, you know, the more I just throw it out there and take the, you know, the thrashings that come with it. Let's be honest, right?
Yeah.
The more I feel this vibrant connection to people like you, to people that then light me up even more. And it's like, I love, Tracy Clark has this great analogy for body talk. She's like, we're like the trash picker-uppers, which I was like, are you kidding me? But she was like, but, you know, trashmen don't come to your house and go inside and take out what's ready to go. You know, body tuckers, we literally, like, we hold and take and sort of encourage, right, what you're ready to let go of.
Right.
And that's so, so powerful, oh, I don't really
That
have any
is.
words left. You go over, talk about what you ever want to talk about. Cause I just feel like your rawness and your willingness to, to express it is just so refreshing.
I feel like digging into my memoir helped with that so much. Like there were things I thought I had processed that then like I'm typing at my computer and I just have tears like pouring out of my eyes. And I'm like, holy man, like this was 13 years ago. How is this
Yeah.
like, but it was so healing. And I felt like honestly, the biggest part of writing it was finding forgiveness for my younger, like my pre-cancer self. Because I really used to blame myself for deserving that, right? Like whatever I did to get myself to that place to need cancer to wake me up.
Wow.
Yeah. And so honestly, the memoir helped me so much to like forgive my younger self for that. So that was huge, right? Because it's like,
and it's like under this guise of you're doing it for other people, but you are receiving the healing, just engaging in the process of it. Oh my goodness. So we've got the warning. We're done, Kristin. This is terrible. I'm going to have you. We have to do this again. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. That was so fun.
Was so powerful. That's going to be like our quote on there. Wherever that go, there is. Any last closing remarks? And please tell us again how they can find your book.
Yeah, my books, they're actually all available on Amazon.
Okay.
If you want more information just about what the books are about, you can visit my website at innercompassbooks.com and innercompassacademy.com as well.
Yeah. And we're going to have this interview on my website, karenbetten.com, and I'm going to put links to all the books there.
Okay.
So Amazon is the best way for people to get them. Yeah.
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 Okay. Unless you're around Saskatchewan, but most people won't be.
And I think I want to get these books in my office to offer them, for people to buy them for Christmas books.
Oh yeah,
so if you're in the Westchester, New York area, stay tuned. They're going to be here. I'm going to get a load of them because this is awesome. This is amazing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for being you. Totally inspired. And to the listeners out there, thank you for creating this platform upon which we can share our truth. If it resonates, that's great. If it doesn't, turn it off. And we still appreciate you. And we still
or let it percolate.
Or let it percolate and go make an omelet while it percolates.
Exactly.
All right. And to Colette, thank you again for always giving me the opportunity to have this platform once a month. And stay tuned for Colette will be back next week. Kristin has her book. You got to check out the new one that was just launched and take one of her classes, get a session with her.
Mindscape Online is November 20th and 21st.
From anywhere in the world.
Anywhere in the world.
To the new platforms. I love it. All right. Thanks, y'all. Take care. And thank you, Olivia, our new producer.